talk about the champions and the champions elect.
Yeah.
Look, what more can we say about City? Because, and I know we've talked about how we get at them and how Chelsea get at them as a team, but they're going for their 12th consecutive win. I mean, it's actually, when you add up 11 wins on the trot, not a lot of goals for City, 32. They've had bigger runs than that in the past.
Yes.
Kevin De Bruyne back in the form that we know Kevin De Bruyne can be in, and back to the sort of shape and fitness that City fans want to see him in. Where are the holes in them? Where are they excelling as they go for this title?
Well, the thing is that you have to look at people like Cancelo, all of the City team, and what Pepper's got, which is just fantastic, is you haven't got too many players that are underperforming. Everybody who plays in the team is doing an unbelievable job. And so it's so difficult to beat them. And the only weakness I think that City have is because, we have to speak about it, and they tried with Harry Kane, is a focal number 9, that when the games are like, for instance, like when I've watched them against Arsenal, and in the end they ran out winners, and because of the fact that they're so good, and you know what I mean, they're like a magnificent team, and Arsenal gave them the opportunity. If they had that focal number 9, who, when they're not quite happening, he scores the half chance, it brings City back to like, boom, okay, now let's see what you do, because then the other team then has to do more. Like, we're talking about Chelsea and what Chelsea are going to do. If City score first, Chelsea have to do something, they have to change. They can't play a game where they're going to say they're going to maybe play 5 at the back and try and break when City have already scored. Because when City score, you have to now do something to impress yourself upon City.
I'm really interested in this, right? Because, and I can't remember who it was, but it was on a Match Day Live recently, and we were talking about this, and actually defenders, I've heard say that it's harder to not mark a striker when you play a team like City. I think it was James Collins, actually. He's been there and he's been up against these guys. And he said, look, if you see Aguero and he's pulling off, you go with him. But then when you've got 4 players loaded up, and you've got a Mahrez, and you've got a Sterling, and you've got a Silva and a De Bruyne, and they're all going forward.
Embarrassment of riches.
Yeah, in a way, and I see what you're saying about the striker.
Yeah, but
actually,
the thing with that is, Will, I hear what you're saying, but the thing with that is that, like we've seen, that when that works, it's amazing. Like we saw with that Spanish team, 2012, the Spanish team. When it works and you've got all of them moving in unison, of course you don't know who to pick up.
It's the games that it doesn't click.
But the games when it doesn't click, where you think, you know something, if they could have just taken that half chance, everybody settles down, everything's calm, and then everybody could just ease into their game. What happens with City is that when that doesn't happen, other team gets impetus simply because they feel like it's not happening for them. If we could get something in this moment, you know when you see the games, Farah, when you think, if they could score in this moment, this is an important moment, it's 10 minutes, if they could score, that could really put a problem, give them a real problem. And some of the times, City, they don't score and the teams don't take advantage of it, and I thought that's what happened with Arsenal, even when Arsenal scored first. You've got to finish them off. You've got to finish them off. And this is what City... The only thing that's missing with City, like to go back to your question at the start, I think I'm digressing a little, is that clinical half chance, goal, bam, and then the rest of the City things just
But if they get that, and we all know the man that we're kind of talking about, if they do get a Haaland, for example, let's just close down Stockley Park, close down the studio, let's go home, forget it.
No, it's over. Business if Haaland comes, we've got loads of...
He says he's the newspaper man, he's on the TV more than anyone.
Talking about the paper. Because I think, listen, if City win this, it was said when in their last wins, 15 wins from 16 now for City. And I heard someone saying that they're the best Premier League squad we've ever seen. And straight away I was looking at Man United 09-10, Tevez, Rooney, Ronaldo, Vidic, Ferdinand, and that fabulous team. But did they have the squad? I'm not necessarily sure. Then I looked at Chelsea 05, the wonderful team, Carvalho, Terry, Makelele, you mentioned Drogba, good job. Again, great team. Good, better squad, not necessarily. Mahrez isn't going to be there, but straight away you can choose from £100 million Grealish, Bernardo Silva. You know, there are options in every position. Stones can't get a game. Kyle Walker isn't necessarily guaranteed to play. There are so many players in so many positions in this City side. And the thing that worries me most for Chelsea is the 2 weeks rest that they've had, because they've been able to field the fringe players in the FA Cup. And the serious players have had an opportunity after the Arsenal game to recharge their batteries, and that's going to be the biggest problem that Chelsea have, because they'll be back.
Do you not feel that can work either way? Because you saw them against Arsenal You know, they looked tired, didn't they? When Arsenal went out and pressed them, they looked tired. They looked, their backs were...
They were on their backs.
Yeah, their backs against it. And if
shattered.
Arsenal were to be able to, you know, progress, that game could have gone either way. But 2 weeks off, and we've seen it with the COVID cases where Man United come of not playing over the Christmas period, and Liverpool, and then they come and the performances weren't there. If the performance and the intensity isn't there for Manchester City, having that rest period that they've had, and they come up against a Chelsea team that have got momentum now, they're winning games, is that going to affect them? Even though they've got fantastic players and you don't know who to pick from.
Well, that's the
rest
thing.
can work both ways, can't it?
But the thing with is that Chelsea going there, they have to test it. They have to put them under pressure. So we need to find out if what happens with the rest, and is that going to be enough for them? You like to feel that under Pep, no one's resting on their laurels there. You know, everybody has to come and everybody has to be ready to go. But what we saw with Arsenal is that if something's just a little bit not quite on, you can beat them. And Chelsea have got more than enough tools to beat them if they're not at it.
Yeah.
They're not at it.
Just finally on that, and just going forward, because we're going to talk about the North London Derby in part 3, exciting game, that one on Sunday. You kind of get the feeling, or do you, that, look, Pep Guardiola is not going to stay longer than the rest of his contract, which is, you know, in theory, one more season after this. And he is at peak Guardiola. City are at peak under him. Whereas Tuchel, I know he's won the Champions League, and we know the way that Abramovich works, so he might not be there longer. But, you know, with Klopp and Guardiola's future uncertain in terms of how long they stay, Chelsea could have that dominance, couldn't they? If they kept hold of Tuchel and they're still going in that progression, their time will come in terms of that Premier League title again.
You talk Chelsea?
Yeah.
Yeah, but the thing is, you have to feel like even now, we can't write Chelsea out of it simply because we know how good City are. We look at City and it would be, you know, we've seen it down the years where teams have had unbelievable leads, unassailable, and you think it can't be caught, and they're caught. So I believe that Chelsea, even if whatever happens with Pep and Klopp, Chelsea are still doing what they do, and they've got a manager at the moment that, if there is one manager that they've got to say, I'm going to just go with this guy, it would be Thomas Tuchel.
Give him a 5-year spell, for example.
Yes, because I think that he's whatever they want, he probably will deliver.
Can I just add to that? Because I think you started this chat by talking about that wonderful stat, 350 days, and since
his first game in charge.
Yeah, and he's got to all of these finals. This is a guy who gets, at the very least, to the end. And then it's really a case of luck, whatever. But he gets the job done. And I think as far as the Premier League is concerned, first of all, we are in a golden era in terms of a title challenge. The top team, City, Chelsea, Liverpool. If an ambitious big team wants to wake from their slumber, you've got another team in there as well. But the other thing about Tuchel is that he has a very young squad, and so they could absolutely fulfil their potential. But the third and the key thing is that Sunday is almost phase 1 of what could happen if there is going to be a challenge to City, because you've got the Manchester Derby still to come in the second half of the season. Liverpool plays City in April.
He's keeping the title race alive. This is what we've got him on.
I like to hear that.
Everyone else at home is like, it's done.
There is an opportunity for it to happen. And like you say, we've all watched enough football to know that, yes, teams have had big leads. They've looked terrific in January and December. But Sir Alex always said it's Easter. Easter is the time when you see what the picture looks like. And that's the most realistic picture in title terms. So I'm still quite optimistic that we could see something exciting in the second half.
The ultimate charmer, isn't he?
I love it.
He's the Rafa
I love it. I believe again. I believe
world.
through Darren. Darren's made me believe.
Just look at him for 10 minutes and you're sold.
You're done.
Bang. Title race is on, everyone.